So I am a creative person. I've been able to get motivated to create new content without much effort. And then all of a sudden, I just can't create anything. Almost like there's a giant wall in front of me that is preventing my creative expressions to, express. It's a block to my creativity. And now I have to figure out a way to break down that wall so I can get back to the creative endeavor that I love so much. So what can I do? Well, today, let's see what we can do to break the creative blocks in our lives. When we pursue creative endeavors in our lives, we often run into creative blocks. Those things that seem to put very literal barriers between our creative minds and the creative output that we seek to produce. Creative blocks are a real thing. They are a problem for every single person, but there are ways of breaking down those blocks and reigniting our creative fire. So there are 7 block-breaking concepts that I want to suggest as options for removing the barriers, the blocks to our creative flow. None of these on the surface is difficult to do, but each has its issues. Each has its place at different times, but given time and effort, all of these options can smash the creative blocks that may be holding us back. First, get rid of distractions. Being distracted by stuff that really doesn't matter is a big part of the blocks we get to our creativity. Now, let me be clear here. I'm referring to things that suck up our time and our mental, emotional, and physical energy, like doom scrolling social media, binge watching a show, allowing ourselves to sit in the mire of the daily news cycle, and yes, even YouTube. So I'm talking about those types of things, which all happen to be my own set of distractions that can block my creativity. If those types of things are a problem to our creative output, we need to cut them out of our routines, or at the very least, cut back on the time we allow ourselves to engage with them. So let me be clear about something else here. I'm not necessarily talking about the distractions that come from relationships. Relational distractions can be an issue for creative blocks, but we cannot just stop having relationships with people because they take our time and distract us from creating. We have to remember that people should be more important than the stuff that we do, our jobs, our hobbies, our creative endeavors. Now, there are people who distract us in a way that is detrimental to our mental and emotional health, and that's a problem that needs to be dealt with grace and tact. But our relationships should matter more to us than our creative endeavors. When it comes down to it, we have to walk the line and maintain both our creative output and our relationships. Second, change the creative routine. If we always do our creative thing one specific way, we start at the same point A and we go to the same point B. Well, that may be the real problem. Maybe our creative minds desire to start somewhere different. That stretch to use a different routine may just give our creativity a jump start. And maybe the change is permanent. And maybe it's simply a one-time thing to knock off the chains holding down our creativity. So third, change the creative environment. This one is subjective, but maybe our creative space is too, whatever, for us to create well in right now. It may be that the aesthetic isn't working for us. It may be that our mind is just bored with it. There are creatives with amazing creative workspaces that just can't create well in their fancy space. And there are creatives working in comparatively awful spaces that create amazing things. The space isn't really the problem, but rather it's our mind's perception of the space that may be causing the issue. Maybe you need to add something to the space aesthetically. Maybe it's better or more vibey lighting. Maybe it's a whole new space. But a word of warning here, don't get in debt to change the environment in hopes to create more or better. Yes, it really is about being inspired, but money and spending it on fancy things for our creative spaces won't satisfy us creatively. And debt is worse than a blocker. It is one of the ultimate creative killers in life. Fourth, get back to simple and basic. Sometimes as creatives, we try to overcomplicate our creative process, thinking that it has to be complex to be good, when in fact, that is not at all the case. We can block ourselves creatively by believing the self-imposed lie that there have to be layers of complexity for the creative thing to be good. But really, the best creative output is very often simple at its core. When we take away the layers of complexity from a creative thing, what are we left with? Is that simple thing we created good creatively with all of the layers gone? Take it back to basic and simple and be inspired by the simple thing that you have made. Without the burden of all of the layers of complexity, we free ourselves to simply create. Fifth, engage with new people. Whether we collaborate regularly with other creatives in our creative endeavors or not, adding new and different voices to our creative process can often be a catalyst for creative growth for all involved. Now, if collaboration is a normal thing, maybe try someone who goes a different direction than our normal collaborators. And if we typically do creative things on our own, I sheepishly raise my hand here, don't let fear of letting others into our creative spaces stop us from inviting others in. Now, the fear may be that they will steal from us, but that should not deter us from giving it a shot. We just have to take care with what we share until we have a level of trust with them. And then there's the fear that, well, maybe it won't be the same as when we create on our own, all alone. Well, of course it won't. That's the whole point. Allowing the creative power from someone else to infuse us with new creative energy. Sixth, get out of our own heads. Fear, anxiety, comparison, perfectionism, the lies that we allow to bounce around in our minds about the creative abilities that we have been given can so often get in the way. They can block our creative endeavors. Now, let me be to the point here. This one may be the hardest of all of these block breakers to implement, because what we have to overcome is in our minds, tied to our feelings, and bound to our expectations. And that can be hard. Probably the best way to get out of our own heads is to spend time talking about the real things going on in our lives with a trusted and wise friend or a counselor of some type. Now, let me be clear. This is not sharing with everyone we know about everything in our lives, but a person or two that we trust. Someone that we know wants to see us grow and overcome the issues in our lives. I heard this a long time ago and it stuck with me. When it comes to our responses to things in life, be it relational things, creative things, or any other thing for that matter, the thing is usually not the thing. Meaning the things that we say are the problems are often not at all the real problem. They are simply the tip of the proverbial iceberg. And that iceberg can burden our creative endeavors about as much, if not more, as anything else. We need to take time to detach ourselves from the icebergs in life. And that can make life in all aspects better. And last, maybe we have to put it down for a season. Now, this one is hard. But the fact is, if we try all of the ways to remove our creative blocks and we still can't create, maybe it's time to move on from the creative endeavor. Now, hear me clearly. I'm not saying that this is a forever thing, but it may be. That thought in the back of our minds is what makes this hard to implement. We can feel like we're cutting off a part of who we are. And in a way, yes, we are. But that separation can, over time, restore our love and connection to the creative process. For me, I've unknowingly embraced this over the years. I have gone through seasons of a lot of creative output, followed by seasons of creative blocks, and then setting aside creating, only to come back to the same creative endeavor a few months later, and once again being filled with that creative spark. there can be a renewal of creative energy by stepping away for a while. One last thought on putting down creative things for a season. It can be an opportunity to pick up another creative endeavor in our lives. Just because we have a block with one form of creative output doesn't mean that that block will carry over to another. In fact, that new creative thing may inspire us to go back to our first endeavor with new energy and love. So, creative endeavors are not easy. They can be really hard because of the weight that we ourselves put on them. But there are solutions to overcome the blocks we have. The general ones that we just talked about, and many others that may be more specific to each individual. Remember that this is more common than it feels like when we ourselves are going through it. Everyone has blocks from time to time. So we're not alone when we hit seasons where creativity is hard. But when we take the time and work through one of the creative block breakers, or maybe a few, on the other side, we are more ready to face our creative endeavors with joy and passion. And we can go, create, and be a blessing. You can support our channel by subscribing, hitting that bell icon to get notified when new content comes out, and liking our videos. If you'd like to consider supporting our team financially, there's a link in the video description with more details. Those things will help our channel for sure, but if you do nothing else, please spend some time in the comments of our videos encouraging one another to create, to help others create, and to help grow that creative nature within us all. Oh, and you can check out these videos too. Thanks. We'll see you again soon.